let's get right into it today. I was so excited to hear that Sony made the announcement to come out with their brand new Sony FX3 cinema camera this year. So I've been skipping on the last few announced cameras because I thought that the Sony A7 III was a good camera and the other ones just didn't have what I was looking for compared to the FX3. Now, don't get me wrong. The Sony A7 III is a great camera. It has a lot of power built into it, but it lacks some features that other cameras, other brands had a while ago. So for instance, before the A7 III, I was shooting with the Canon 60D. And one of the things I loved about this camera was the flip screen, right? So I could see myself and shoot myself at the same time. I love this feature. I miss this feature about this camera that unfortunately the A7 III does not have. It doesn't have that flip screen, but the Sony FX3 does. My last cinema camera was the Canon XL2. This was a beast of a camera. Great camera to work with, but I had to retire it when I was shooting weddings and quinceañeras over to the 60D just because of the size, the weight, having to carry that you know, throughout like a whole day, just a lot of work. And this camera was a great camera as well for weddings and quinceañeras, but you know, I just don't, I don't see myself going wrong with switching to Sony. This camera this was one of the first mirrorless cameras from Sony, and I mean, just the fact, the size of it, the power that it had, you just can't go wrong with switching over to Sony, right? At the time, because I know Canon has some good cameras nowadays too, but I'm happy being with Sony. I'm happy seeing the quality that I've seen with these cameras, and I don't know, there's probably no switching back for me at this point. Okay, so let's go over the specs of the A7 III compared to the FX3. Now, obviously, I don't have an FX3 at hand. I only have the A7 III, but we will still go through the specs and see what, you know, what the difference is, the specs that I look into when I'm comparing cameras. The Sony FX3 is a full-frame camera. The ISO sensitivity is 80 to 102,400. It's a Sony E-mount. It does not have built-in ND filters the way that the Canon XL2 does. You can shoot up to 4K 120 frames per second or Full HD 200 frames per second, or 240 frames per second. And you can save on SD cards and CF Express cards. The display resolution, I cannot say this number, so I'll just put it on the screen. The weight is 640 grams. The sensor resolution is 12.1 megapixels. You can take pictures as JPEGs, MPEGs, and RAW. And the recording limit, it might not have one since it's a cinema camera. I've not seen details on that, but that's what I believe. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you know, leave comments below. But those are the specs that I look into, and those are the ones that I've seen so far for this camera. I'm sure we'll know more details about the camera as we get closer to the release date, but like I said, I don't have a Sony FX3 on hand to show you guys, but Sony, if you are looking for more brand ambassadors, sign me up. I am ready to play, man. Now, I'm shooting on the iPhone today simply because I wanted you guys to see the Sony A7 III. Most of the videos that you guys see on my channel are shot on this camera. Very few shots are being recorded on the iPhone or the drone that I have. But the question is, will I be buying the Sony FX3? So the short answer is yes, I do plan on buying it, simply because the flip screen was a big selling point for me. Like I said, I cannot flip the screen on this one. which bugs me so much. But then there's other features like the fact that it's a, you know, like I said, it's a cinema camera. Last cinema camera I had was the Canon XL2. I consider it a cinema camera. And I haven't had one since. You know, the Canon 60D is not a cinema camera, and neither is the A7III. I mean, they shoot really well, and you can do a lot of things with it. You can be creative with how you shoot, but they're not essentially cinema cameras. So that's another selling point. And then the fact that you know, the shooting limit is unknown at the moment. The new FX3 comes with a fan on it, so you know it's not overheating, and I'm sure that's just for the sake of, you know, shooting a little bit longer. So I love those three key selling points, and I think that's why I'm considering buying it and upgrading. Obviously I'm not going to get rid of this camera. This is a great second shooter camera, but I think that's gonna be my first shooter camera just because of all the cool features that it has that I've been waiting on to have. And the fact that this camera is a filmmaker first camera also has caught my attention. You know, I started taking pictures with a Samsung camera, but then I started upgrading to these Canon cameras, and I was shooting weddings and quinceañeras and whatnot, music videos and things like that. But lately I've been shooting a lot of YouTube videos with my A7III, and like I said, some of the features that I already mentioned have caught my attention, and the fact that it's also a filmmaker first camera, that's caught my attention. But you know what, more than anything, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this new FX3, if you're considering buying it or not, and what's the reason behind it. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If this is your first time here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Y'all, files, you can use an SD card or a CF Express card, and I just messed that up. You can shoot at 4K 120 frames per second or full frame 244. Did I say full frame? Oh my gosh. There's very few shots. Today's video is being shot. Today's video is being shot on the. Typically, I'm not shooting on the phone. I'm typically the flip screen is. But for now, you know, I'm just using them for. I decided to shoot on the iPhone instead. Yeah. Otherwise, oh my gosh, I keep killing it. Sometime in the near future. But for now, the fact that I'm just using YouTube cameras. Oh my gosh.